Chapter 8 of In the Field, 1914-1915. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by FNH. In the Field, 1914-1915, by Marcel Dupont. Chapter 8. Christmas Night. Mon Lieutenant! Mon Lieutenant! It's 2 o'clock. My faithful Wattrelot held the flickering candle just in front of my eyes to rouse me. What torture it is to be snatched from sleep at such an early hour! It would not be anything in summer, but it was the 24th of December, and it was my turn to go on duty in the trenches. A nice way of keeping Christmas. I turned over in my bed, trying to avoid that light that tormented me. I collected my thoughts, which had wandered far away whilst I was asleep, and had been replaced by exquisite dreams, dreams of times in peace, of welfare, of good cheer, and of gentle warmth. Then I remembered. I had to take command of a detachment of 100 troopers of the regiment, who were to replace the 100 now in the trenches. It was nearly a month since we had joined our army corps near R, and every other day the regiment had to furnish the same number of men to occupy a sector of the trenches. It was my turn, on the 24th of December, to replace my brother officer and good friend, Lieutenant Delagy, who had occupied the post since the 22nd. I had forgotten all this. How cold it was! Brrr. Whilst Wattrelot was taking himself off, I braced myself for the necessary effort of getting out of the warm sheets. Like a coward, I kept on allowing myself successive respites, vowing to rise heroically after each. I will get up as soon as Wattrelot has reached the landing of the first floor. I will get up when I hear him walking on the pavement of the hall, or rather when I hear the entrance door shut, and his boots creaking on the gravel path. But every noise was hushed. Wattrelot was already some way off, and I still shied at this act, which, after all, was inevitable, to get out of bed in a little ice-cold room at 2 o'clock in the morning. Through the window, which had neither shutter nor curtain, I saw a small piece of the sky, beautifully clear, in which myriads of stars were twinkling. The day before, when I came in to go to bed, it was freezing hard. That morning the frost, I thought, must be terrible. "Come up!" With a bound I was on the ground, and rushed at once to the little pitch-pine washstand. Rapid ablutions would wake me up thoroughly. Horror! The water in the jug was frozen. Oh, not very deeply, no doubt, but all the same I had to break a coating of ice that had formed on the surface. However, I was happy to feel more nimble after having washed my face. Quick, 2 warm waistcoats under my jacket, my large cloak with its cape, my fur gloves, my campaigning cap pulled over my ears, and there I was, with a candle in my hand, going down the grand staircase of the château. For I was quartered in a château. The very word makes one think of a warm room, well upholstered and well furnished, with soft carpets and comfortable armchairs. But, alas, it was nothing of the sort. The good lady, whose house it was, had provided for all contingencies. The family rooms had been prudently dismantled and double-locked. A formidable concierge had the keys, and I was happy indeed when I found the butler's room in the attics. His bed, with its white sheets, seemed to me very desirable. And then, as we say in time of peace, one must take things as they come. The open hall door let in a wave of cold air, which struck cold on my face. But I had not a minute to lose. The detachment was to start at 2:30 punctually, and it had, no doubt, already formed up in the market-place. I hurried into the street. The tall pines of the park stood out black against the silver sky, which with bare branches on the other trees formed thousands of arabesques and strange patterns all round. Not the slightest noise was to be heard in this limpid, diaphanous night, in which the air seemed as pure and rare as the summits of the lofty mountains. Under my footsteps the gravel was soft, but once I had got outside of the iron gate, I found myself on ground as hard as stone. The mud formed by recent rains, and the ruts hollowed by streams of convoys had frozen, and the road was a maze of furrows and inequalities which made me stumble again and again. In front of the Hôtel des Lacs, a certain number of the men had already lined up in front of their horses. Huddled in their cloaks with collars turned up, They were stamping their feet and blowing onto their hands. It must have been a real torture for them, too, to come out of their straw litter, where they were sleeping so snugly a few moments before, rolled up in their blankets. They had got a liking for the kind of comfort peculiar to the campaigner, and had invented 1,001 ingenious methods of improving the arrangements of their novel garrison. Sleeping parties had been gradually organised, and sets of 7 or 8 at a time enjoyed delightful nights stretched on their clean straw. Many of them would certainly not be able to get to sleep if they suddenly found themselves in a real bed, and then it is less difficult to get up when one has gone to bed with one's clothes on, and when the room is not very warm. Not one of them complained. Not one of them grumbled. We can always count on our brave fellows. "All present, mon lieutenant." It was the senior non-commissioned officers of the 2 squadrons assembled there who reported. Every one had got up and equipped himself at the appointed hour. Not one was missing at roll call. They had all assembled of their own accord. The corporals had not needed to knock at door after door to wake the sleepers. Our chasseurs had very quickly established simple customs and rules of their own which ensured the regularity of the service without written orders. This intelligent and spontaneous discipline is one of the most admirable features of this campaign. It has grown by degrees, without any special orders or prescriptions from above, with the result that the hardest labours are carried out almost without supervision, because each man understands the end in view and the grim necessities which it involves. They understood at once that this early hour was the only one at which the relief could be effected, and every other day, just as on that December morning, 25 men out of each squadron get up at 1:30, equip themselves, and saddle their horses, whilst the cooks warm up a good cup of coffee for each man. Then, without any hurry, but at the exact moment, they form up in fighting order at the appointed spot, and when the officer arrives in the dark rain, wind, snow, or frost, he is of receiving the same report. "All present, mon lieutenant." "Quick. Mount." We shall feel the cold less trotting over the hardened roads this bright night and under this brilliant moon. 2 and 2, in silence, we issued from the village in the direction of R. I knew that I should find a little further on, at the crossroads where the crucifix stands, the 50 men of the 1st Half Regiment and 2nd Lieutenant de G., who serves under me. Yes, there he was, coming to meet me on the hard road. It was a joy to me that chance had given me this jolly fellow for my trench companion. I hardly knew him, for he had not been with us more than a few days. Taken from the military college directly war was declared, he had first been sent to a reserve squadron, and had only just been appointed to an active regiment. But I already knew, through my comrades of the 1st Squadron, that he was a daring soldier and a merry companion. So much the better, I thought. War is a sad thing, and one must learn to take it gaily. A plague on gloomy spirits and long faces. True, we can no longer wage the picturesque war of the good old days. We shall never know another Fontenoy, or Rivoli, or Eylau. But that is no reason why we should lose the jovial humour of our forefathers. Thank Heaven, we are preserved their qualities of dash and bravery. But it is more difficult to keep a smiling face in this hideous moral warfare, which is imposed upon even us troopers. All the more reason for liking and admiring the cheery officers who keep up our spirits, and G. is one of them. We shook hands without speaking, for it seemed to us that if we opened our mouths the frost would get into our bodies and freeze them, and we set off at a sharp trot along the narrow road which, crossing the high road to Paris, leads to sea. There we should have to leave our horses, cross the zone of the enemy's artillery fire, and get to the trenches on foot. The horses snorted with pleasure, happy to warm themselves by rapid movement. Some of them indulged in merry capers, which were repressed, not too gently, by the more sedate riders. The hoofs struck the uneven ground with a metallic ring, which must have echoed far, and the clink of the bits and stirrups also disturbed the sleeping country. Before us the road ran straight amidst the dark fields, a long pale ribbon. No one thought of laughing or talking. Sleep seemed still to hover over the column, and every one knew that 2 days of trench duty would be long and hard to get through, even if the Prussians left us in peace. We passed a cross, which shone white on the side of the road under the pale light of the moon, and saluted it. We had known it from the first days, and had its inscription by heart. 80 non-commissioned officers, corporals and soldiers of the 39th and 74th Regiments of Infantry,